Okay, how's this, you guys? So as you see, I mean, obviously very unhappy with the quick development of the bishops. I mean, the fact that black can bring out the knight's castle, the king, and also play in the center causes quite a few problems here. So for that reason, before we get into the actual games, I would just, it was not a spider, it's something gross. It's not a spider, it's like all it's icky. It's icky and it's in my bathroom and it's bothering me, and if it comes near me, I'm gonna have to kill it. But whatever, that's life. Anyway, you guys, all right. So before we get to the games, I did happen to peruse my Twitter very briefly, and I did see this tweet. And I thought it was really nice to see. It was by the TSM report. It says, huge day for Hikaru as he grabs 2 wins and closes the gap to 0.5 with 3 final games tomorrow. Hashtag TSM win. So thank you so much to TSM report for that tweet. Really nice to see. Obviously going to do my best. I certainly did not have a good feeling coming into today. To put it mildly, I did not feel great, but I found a way. Got 2.5 out of 3 points, and we're back in business as we head into the final day tomorrow with 3 games. So all right, you guys, so without further ado, let's take a look at the games. All right, so we're going to take a look at the games. Before we get to the games, also, thank you to Ayas for the 10 gifted subs. Appreciate it. Thank you to the original Black Pepper for the 5,000 bits. Thank you to Gotham Chest as well, and thank you to Chest 2 for the host. Appreciate it. So all right, you guys, without further ado, let's take a look at the games I played today. So round 1, we started with white pieces against Magnus Carlsen, the world champion. Needs no introduction, obviously. And I was not happy with the setup, I'm not gonna lie, and there were a few reasons I was unhappy with the setup. First reason I was unhappy with the setup is it felt very much like it's headed for symmetrical pathways or symmetrical pathing, because what's going to happen is probably both sides are going to play like this, so you're going to end up with a symmetrical structure. So this is step 1 that I didn't like about the starting position. Step 2, what I didn't like about the position is that it's very easy to castle, very quick development with the knights, and you can castle the king immediately out of the center of the board. So I was not very happy to see this position to start with. I use this scene when analyzing. Yeah, I use this scene so you guys can see lines and everything. I don't know if you guys don't like it, that's life. But anyway, whatever. Will this be on more Hikaru? I don't know which channel this will be on. But I will talk about that very briefly as well, which is this board. What, you don't like the pieces, you guys? Okay, let's get funky then. You want some funky boards? Okay, you want funky board? Okay. Okay, we'll take a look at this then. Okay, how's this, you guys? So as you see, I mean, obviously very unhappy with the quick development of the bishops. I mean, the fact that black can bring out the knight's castle, the king, and also play in the center causes quite a few problems here. So for that reason, all right, you guys. Anyway, yeah, I actually have the position memorized, so of course it's not an issue. But yeah, so all right, you guys. Clip and ship, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, and as far as the channels go, we have too much chess content. I'm not gonna lie, we just got too much content, and too much, so that therefore we create a second YouTube channel. It is more GM. I think it's more GMHikaru. So there is a second YouTube channel. Make sure to check it out. Make sure to subscribe as well. We will be posting content on their chess and otherwise as well. But basically stuff that we just have too much materials, too much content. So we needed a second channel to start putting more content. All right. Okay, so anyway, I play c4, c5, b3, b6. Pretty standard for Magnus. Pretty standard development by both sides. Putting the pawns on the queen side out. So now I go d4. Magnus takes, which I think was a mistake in retrospect. I wasn't sure if I should have played d4 or let Magnus play d5. But I really wasn't sure. Another YouTube play button for both locations. So that's 5 head. But anyway, as I was saying, I wasn't sure. I thought I was trying to decide, do I go knight f3 or d4? Whoops, sorry about that. Trying to decide, do I go knight f3 or d4? Okay, actually, let's back up. We're going to edit this out since it's going to appear. All right, so in this position, I was trying to figure out, should I play pawn to d4 here, kind of, or should I go like knight to f3 and allow black to play d5 trade and play d4 myself? So I wasn't really sure what I should do here. But in the end, I'd say, you know what? I have pawns in the center. Might as well try to open up both of the diagonals for my bishops here. So Magnus takes. I take back. He goes d5. And this was kind of the big question: is should I get this structure or should I go knight f3, d5, take and play d4? This is really the million-dollar question in the game. And I was quite happy with what I did. I thought this was correct. He plays d5, rook d1. Of course, I put pressure on the queen. He can't recapture because then he'll lose a rook at the least. Garry said he couldn't concentrate after Mouse in first game. I totally get it. I mean, for Garry, it's very hard. I think when you have the tragedy that occurred to him in the game with Fabiano. So okay, knight gf6 is played. I play knight gf3 again. I don't want to let black get a big center with d4 and e5. So we both develop. We can also castle. He goes queen c7, which actually surprised me. I was very surprised by Magnus here when he did this. I felt that white should be better, but I thought if he goes bishop c7, it's kind of hard to prove. I mean, maybe I can swing queen h4 and still argue I'm better, but it doesn't feel like it's that much with the knight on e1 here. So instead he goes queen c7, we trade. I play e4, a move that I was very happy with during the game, mainly because black can't go knight c3, because then I go rook c1 and I pick up the queen or the knight here. So he goes knight f4, I play queen e3, Garry goes queen c5, not Garry, sorry, Magnus goes queen c5, I take, and this was sort of a semi-bluff by me. So when I took on c5, much to my horror, this was my original idea behind queen e3, was that, well, he can't go queen c5 because I just take, and he has to take with the pawn because rook c5 loses to rook d8. So this is my original idea. Kasparov is explaining the pre-move error at the moment. He's very mad. Hey, look, that's chess. You know, those of you who aren't aware already, that's why you got to buy mice from Logitech. Logitech produces the best mice. I've been using them for the better part of the last 25 years. So if you don't use Logitech, you got to use Logitech. Actually, I do wonder what mouse he was using, to be quite frank. I actually wonder, did he say what kind of mouse he was using? It was Logitech, Kappa. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So basically during the game, much to my horror, when he played this, I thought and I took it. I was amazed because Magnus had actually pre-moved pawn takes queen. Because during the game, to my horror, I realized after rook c5, I go rook d8. He has this very annoying bishop b7 move and bishop a6 check. So like if I take, he checks me and I get sauced here. I think check king f1, rook c1. And again, this diagonal is deadly. I'm losing a bishop, and my king and rook are just totally goosed. Or goose is the wrong word. Sorry, totally like just stuck, and it's just GG's. So that was so much to my horror. But then I realized during the game, I thought, you know what? You know, even if he takes with the rook, I can still probably play like a knight d4, f3, g3, knight d3. Try to claim some kind of small advantage. Probably it's nothing, but I can try to claim something. I guess engine says 0.22, so it is a little something. But then I was shocked as Magnus insta pre-moved this b takes c5. And so now I played knight e5, and now Magnus played a move that I was very perplexed by. He just took the knight on e5. What is this? Kasparov says, in quotes, I outplayed him? Wait, is Kasparov saying that he outplayed me? Wait. That's bait? I don't know. Anyway, no, I mean, I have no idea, because the position was very weird. I won't pretend to say that I played normal chess. Like, I was trying to play funky stuff. But anyway, let's keep going with the game. So I go knight e5, and here Magnus just takes on e5, which I thought was inexplicable. I thought after like f6, knight d7, king f7, takes rook b8, white is better here, but I thought he's gonna get the c4 in, and he should be fine, because when he takes on e5, he actually ends up in real trouble right away. Because I go f3, create the connect 3, very strong versus this light square bishop. f6, I go here. Of course, I don't go back this way because then the knight starts hopping. So I go this way to keep control over the square so that he can't really develop his knights easily. So now he goes c4. I just castle my king. He takes. He goes bishop c6. And now I went rook f2, and at this point I thought, you know what, this is all you can ask for out of the opening in 960, because basically you've got two bishops. This is very Magnus-esque, by the way. You got the two bishops, long term, very good. Black's king is iffy. The knight on e8 is really ugly. It's kind of dominated by this bishop on g3, and my rooks control the open line. I can bring the other rook to c2. I can even put the bishop on a2, and there are just all kinds of issues on every single diagonal and file here. So I was like, okay, this is good. I'm in good shape. But Magnus, I mean, I will give him a lot of credit. He found bishop c6 and bishop b5, which I think is one of the only concepts here. The idea being that he can plant the pawn on a6 and the bishop and pawn support each other, so it's not a big weakness. So now I play knight to c2. . So now I play knight to c2. He goes knight 8 c7. I play knight to a3. King to f7. I play bishop to a2. Idea basically to activate the bishops on both diagonals. Rook to d8. I play rook d2. Again, keep the harmony in the position. Keep the bishops in play. Keep the bishops in play. That's not a diagonal. Keep the bishops in play. Try to push the pawn up the board. And it feels very, very good. Insect behind you on the wall. Very funny. Very funny. Very funny. Very funny. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's keep going. Okay, so he goes bishop a6 here. So I play rook to c2. And at this point, really, the question was, is rook c2 best, or do I go b4? Now, one thing that was really annoying is Magnus kept finding really good moves. Like, I thought b4 was winning, because I thought I could take and go f4. And then I realized Magnus, instead of going bishop c4, rook c2, which loses the game, he can first check and then go bishop c4, and the rook is down. So I no longer go rook c2 to pin. So he puts the rook on the end of the board first, and then it's completely fine for black. So it was really annoying because Magnus kept finding these really nice moves, and I used a lot of time to find the best move. So I went rook c2. He goes rook d8. I play pawn to b4. Again, bishop's on a2. You got to activate the diags here. So I go b4. He goes check. He goes bishop d3. Another good move. I go rook b2. Not rook takes c7 because black can't capture to the pin, but he can play rook d2, king e3, rook takes a2. And now after rook a7, bishop c4, black is threatening to make a checkmate because the knight holds both these squares. And I can't really capture because then I lose the rook on a7. So it's actually very, very bad for white here. So I go rook b2. He plays knight b5, trying to trade. We trade. I go bishop b3, which actually I guess is the move that cost me the game. Apparently what I was supposed to play here is knight takes bishop at b8 right away, and the point is after a6 I just go f4, and if g6 I go g4 followed by f5, and if the king ever moves you lose the juicer on e6. So this would have been winning. Now what I did wrong is the reason it's winning, unlike in the game, is that in the game the rook ends up on a1 protecting the pawn. So if I'd done it in the other order where I take and go bishop b8 like this, the problem is the pawn is under attack. So black can still go bishop d7, but then I just take the pawn and win, and it's GG's. So unfortunately, by playing this wrong order, now he has time to go here because the rook guards the pawn, and now he can move the king out of the very deadly pin towards that the bishop has towards the king on f7 here. So anyway, he goes here, and now unfortunately I realize that it's just a draw. So I have to go rook a2, rook b1, and now the problem is after king e8, the pin is broken here, and even though I have the two bishops, the king side is very stable, no real weaknesses. These pawns all support each other very neatly, and that's life. So we play a few more moves, and then somewhere around here, actually, I thought I offered Magnus a draw, and apparently I didn't. Like, the arbiter had to tell me, how to make a draw, because I clicked the draw button and it didn't draw. Apparently you have to click it like twice or something to make a draw. As you guys can tell, I clearly don't play much on lead chess. So it's funny because like I hit the button and then Magnus made a move. I'm like, wait, what's going on? Why isn't he accepting the draw? And then finally the arbiter's like, you have to hit the button twice, not just once, to offer the draw. So I mean, I played a few more moves, and here of course we agreed to a draw. TSM jersey fits you so well, baby. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Again, TSM forever, baby. TSM all the way. Anyway, yeah, so game ends in a draw, and that's life. So first game's a draw. Obviously I had chances to maybe win, but I thought I played a good game. And you know, one thing I think that's really important to note is like the psychology, the whole where your mind is at. Really, it depends how you play. And I know I didn't win the game, and I probably was like winning at one point or another, but I played good fundamental chess. And when you play good chess, even if you don't quite find the way to win, when you play good chess, you feel good. It just like it gives you positive energy that you won't have otherwise. So all right, let's keep going. Let's take a look at the second game that I played with the black piece against Fabiano Caruana. Now, one thing that somebody said a lot about was that black has won a lot more games in 960, and it's definitely true that I think the problem is it's all in here. It's all up in the head, and the notion is that because in normal chess, the way pros view it is like with white you try to win. You want to put pressure on your opponent with the white pieces and be super solid like a rock with the black pieces. So because of that, I think that spills over into 960 chess, where it's like everyone has the psychological mindset that like you're white, you have to be better, you got to prove that you have an advantage, you got to prove you got something going, and and so it gets in your head, and then things start going wrong and you don't get an advantage, because of course it's 960. Pieces aren't harmonized in the same way. So it's like the new patch. Like, because chess has not had a patch in 500 years, everyone doesn't realize that things change. So I will mention that. Thank you to 03 the Great Rex for the Prime. Thank you to Bentium V for the Prime. Thank you so much, appreciate it. Thank you to Liam World Record, or Liam Wide Receiver, for the 3 months as well. Thank you to Ryan Vigila for the 17 months, and Arik Ramthor for the 5 months as well. So yeah, so the pizza, I said pieces. I did not say pizzas aren't harmonized. I said pieces, not pizza, not pizza. Although I guess nowadays people call it za, is what I've heard, at least on the East Coast. But yeah, so because there haven't been many fundamental changes, I think the thought process up here is that it's like, well, I'm white, I gotta be better, I gotta prove that I'm better, I gotta show the fans or show myself that I can prove that I, you know, even if things didn't go my way, I don't win, I had the advantage. So because of that, I think it gets into people's heads in a very negative way. So Fabiano played knight c3, knight c6, g4, I play e5 here, Fabiano goes f4, I play f6. Now, one thing that I would also add that really is important about 960 is you gotta play in the center mostly. Not always, but most of the time you gotta play in the center. If you let your opponent take the whole center, you end up in a lot of trouble. Hikaru woke up. Well, I'm fine, you guys. I'm a little bit tired. Because I mean, I streamed for like 3 hours before, and now we're streaming more. I don't know if I've got it in me to play Among Us later. I might have it, but we'll see. But I'll probably also be heading out later as well at some point. So knight b3 is played here. I play knight to b6 here. Castles is played by Fabiano. So now I castle. Of course, we both castle, and again we get the big center, and all is pretty good here. So now now he plays pawn to f5, which I thought was very I don't know. I didn't like it. I thought Fabiano won his first game against Garry, right? You guys can tell me, because I literally have seen no games. Well, I mean, you guys, I'm representing TSM. I mean, this is solo mid. I'm representing the middle part of the board. Like, of course, I'm going to play in the middle of the board. I'm with TSM. What do you expect out of me? Come on, let's be serious. Anyway, okay. But yeah, so Fabiano won. So this is why I bring it up, you guys, is because I was very confused, because to me the way it felt like Fabiano was actually on tilt in this game. Like, he was playing a lot of moves very quickly, and a lot of moves that I didn't understand. Like, he played f5, so I played d5. I take the whole middle center part of the board here. Bishop c5, queen f7. And the other reason I would say that I was really confused by Fabiano doing this, yeah, was because if Fabiano won his game, he should be playing like, he should be in a good mood. He got to win. He should be feeling like really into it. But then he gives me the center. And one thing that I will say about Fabiano as a chess player is he is a guy who loves getting stuff in the center. He loves getting pawns in the center of the board. And in this game, he basically gave me the center, but he also was moving very quickly. So I was really confused by this. Garry lost because of a bug, according to him. He lost because of a bug. Okay. Anyway, Fabiano plays e3. I go pawn to g6 here. Fabiano plays queen b5. I go bishop g7. Again, the one issue I have here is that my bishop on the dark square is behind this pawn wall. So what I got to do is I got to bring it in and either activate it this way or bring it back and exchange the other way, because it's never going to gain scope with white having the pawns on g4 and f5 and me having this pawn g6 and the pawns on f6 e5. Do I think Fabiano was trying to bait me? I mean, maybe he was. I don't know. It just, the way he played this game, it felt very tiltish, at least in the opening, because he was moving fast and playing he was playing fast, and it didn't feel in the spirit of the way Fabiano plays. So rook f1, I go king b8. Now he takes, and I take the right way. Oh yeah, I'm so good at chess. I'm just the greatest chess player of all time. Okay, so during the game, I was very sus about taking with the c pawn, but apparently it's the best move. I assumed that, like, logically, I should just take and capture towards the center following opening principles. But as we see, the engine agrees with me that it's better to take with the c pawn and not the a pawn here. Wow, I'm actually very proud of myself for doing this, because I was very unsure during the game which capture was correct on b6 here. So he takes, I take. Hikaru, you have 100 plus messages on chess.com. Can you read the messages? I'm sorry, I cannot read the messages. I'm sorry. Okay, so king b1, and again, this is why I said with Fabiano, it felt very weird, because he gives me the center, he gives me the two bishops, and it just seemed very odd to me the way he played this. So I go d4, knight to e4. Now I played queen to e7 here, and at this point I was very, very happy with what was going on, because I got the queen in the center. I can bring the rook out to the middle as well, and I mean, it's just looking really, really good here. So I was feeling very, very good at this point in time, because I just thought, you know, I got 2 juicers, I've got the queen, I got the rooks, I got the center. I mean, it's all the advantages that you can ask for how the opening phase of the game. So he goes knight g3, another move that I thought was very bizarre. I played queen c7. Now I have a feeling what I did here was very suspicious. I think bishop e6 is just better, and it's like bishop e6 and queen c7 is probably better, because here I was actually mildly concerned by bishop e4 maybe, but Fabiano then after queen c7 pretty much instantly took on c6, and when he took on c6, I was I didn't know what was Fabiano, because like now not only does he undouble the pawns, but he gives me like the flying V formation, because if he goes like queen here, I go here, and it's just a classic flying V. I control the center. I also have this bishop on the light squares, and I mean, I've got the rooks in the center. If this isn't what you're dreaming of when you play the game of chess, then you probably shouldn't be playing it, because it's literally everything you can ask for. Black is the center. Black has 2 bishops. Black has rooks in the center. You got king safety. It's literally as much as you're ever gonna. It's as much you can ask for when you play chess. So Fabiano went queen d3, and now I played e4. Another very important move. Goes queen a6. If knight takes e4, I think you lose on the spot to c5. Oh, f5 is better. Oh, I guess f5 wins also. I was gonna go c5 c4, which I think is pretty good too. You see -2 anyway. But I mean, f5 was probably simpler, because after takes queen e3, I just go bishop d5. White can't play d3 because then I take and I win the rook if he captures. And if he goes rook f4, I can go bishop h6 and I just skewer everything. This is just skewers and pins. The power of the bishops is really important. So Fabiano does not do that. Instead, he goes queen a6. I play c5 again. Now the pawn's on e4, not e5, so it's not quite a flying V, but it still is pretty good here. So now he takes, I take back, he goes d3 again. White has to try and play something in the center, and now I played rook c8, which I think is okay, but I suspect was not the best move. I think e3, knight e2, and just like bishop b3 is just winning. But I got a little bit worried, because again, knight is blockading here, and even though I got the pass juicer, the knight can become a real issue down the road. So I you know, maybe I should have done that. Instead I thought, okay, rook c8 looks clean, it looks classic. I just go for everything here, down towards the white king and the white knight. And Fabiano blundered here with rook c1. Oh, queen d7 is winning? What? Oh, I mean, okay, computers, whatever. They're stupid. So I play bishop h6 here. Yeah, queen d7. I mean, if I play queen d7, Fabiano should get up and accuse me of cheating, because queen d7 is just a absurd move here. I mean, just absurd. Like, what? I mean, like, what? I mean, like, what is this? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, queen d7 is stupid. I'm sorry, I can't even look at it. So I play bishop h6 like any normal human would do. I hit the rook on c1, and now white can't move the rook, because then you lose the pawn on c2. So he plays knight e4, I take, and now I play pawn to f5, trade, knight g3, and around here it's definitely winning, but I got very careless somehow, because I played bishop e3, rook e5, queen a4, queen d6, b4, and now I mess this up. Somewhere around here it should have been really routine, really smooth to win, but I play queen d5, b5, rook d8, trying to get cheeky and win the pawn, and now Fabiano goes here, and after queen b5, queen d2, somehow I found a way to really make this messy. At this point it should be pretty straightforward to win. Yeah, actually I think rook f5 was the start of my mistakes. What I should have done here was rook f8, and the point being, if white goes h4, now I can go queen a4 and go for the checkmate on the a file down towards the king on b1. Because what I did was I thought, okay, well, I just go here and I can still go queen a4, and I just went on the spot. But the problem is, after rook f4, rook a5, c4. Oh, what? Rook g8 is winning somehow? What? Rook g8, knight g3? Oh, yes. I mean, I guess it's just winning because you can go king b7, king a6. Yeah, you can go king b7. I mean, well, whatever. Computers, they don't understand chess. Let's not waste our time on this trash. Okay, so here I play f3 like any human would. Fabiano goes queen h6. I play queen to e5 here. Try to centralize the queen. I basically hit the pawn, create the tie rack here, and I also guard against any checks when I bring the rook over. Yeah, maybe that's true too. So h4, I play rook f8, queen c6, queen e7, rook f2, g8, rook f1. Yeah, now here I went rook f8. What I want to do is I wanted to play f2, but I wasn't sure what's going on after rook f2, knight f2, because if I check and take, white is actually completely fine because he can create a check where he wins the rook back. And if I do it the other way, with like check here, queen f7. After b3, if I just take, queen d6 is now a draw. Or not. Wait, is this? No, or is it? No, it is a draw. Queen e8, not queen e6. Queen e8 is a draw. Okay, good. Queen e8 is a draw. Wrong one. Queen e8 draws. Okay, I'm not completely insane. Queen e8 does draw, however. So actually, this is what I kind of was worried about. So instead of going f2, I played rook f8, rook f2, and now here we get some like weird kind of quasi repetition. I go rook g7, rook f1, and now finally with the rook on g7 instead of g8, it makes a huge difference because f2 is winning now. Because now if white takes, what happens is after takes, check here, takes, when white checks, the rook is not on g8, so I can swing the rook and create a safe haven for my king on a6 here, where there's no check, and it's just completely winning for black here. So yeah, so now I get f2, and at this point I thought, okay, good, it's finally over. I got the winning position, and I proceeded here to make this very messy. I went here, I checked, and now I didn't go rook f5, which wins on the spot. Oh man, I saw rook f5. What is? I saw this. Why? Well, I thought knight d6. Oh, mate and 4. I saw rook f5 and I thought after knight d6 it was very complicated. Oh my god. Oh my god, I missed rook c3. I'm just, yeah, I told you guys I'm not very good at chess. You guys seem to think I am, but I'm just not very good. Yeah, I mean, this so bad. I mean, I saw rook f5 and I thought knight d6 stops the check, and he goes queen h8 and it's like checkmate here. Okay, that's just terrible. I saw rook f5. What is wrong with me? Anyway, okay, I play here rook f8. Now Fabiano finds queen d6, and now the game starts again. I mean, I make some checks, I play queen c6, and now fortunately I'm able to simplify, because after trade and rook c2 we end up with 2 rooks and 3 juicers against a rook knight and 3 juicers. And even if it's going to take me a lot of time to convert this is winning technically. Like if I play this well technically, it's just winning. So he goes rook f7. We play some random moves. I'm not really going to go over much about this, at least not until we get to this endgame. So we reach this endgame where it's 2 rooks and 2 against rook knight and 2. And again, I know that there is no draw. Technically, this is winning. As long as I play good moves, it's winning. There's no fortress. There's no draw. And once I got here, I knew that it was going to be very calm and very relaxing. So we just make some moves. Nothing special, really. I go here, do this. We just waste some moves. And now the thing here is that Fabiano ends up getting his king. It starts running the wrong way as opposed to being on b3 or c2, where it can guard both of these pawns. And now I go here, and now I go rook h8. Again, now the knight is tied down to the juicer. He can't move the knight because then I'll make a check and collect. And his rook is also kind of tied down as well. So his rook on b3 is actually perfectly placed. So he goes here, I go check. Again, important to check because now if king d2, I check him. Can't come back to the e line, so he's just going to lose the horse. And he can't go forward because then he loses the pawn, and now he's just lost. So now he has to go even 1 row further. So now he's even cut off further. He'd like to be like here or here, and now he's really cut. I forced his king going way off to the wrong side of the board. So now I go king c6, king b5. One last little trick, the idea that if I take, he can make a check. So I quietly check the king, and now I just collect the juicer, check king a4, and now the king is safe. I have the 2 rooks and the 2 pawns, and it's just winning pretty much by force. So the game just keeps going. Force the king over, again important, and now I just run the pawn, and a4, rook d8, and here Fabiano resigns because if he takes the pawn, I just go king b2. pressure on the pawn, and he also has the rook and knight pin, so I just run this juicer up the board to the end and make a queen and win the game. Thank you to Owonter Gaming for the 300 bits. Thank you so much, appreciate it. So this is this is where Fabiano resigned after rook to d8. Again, just nothing he can do. The two juicers just go up the board. I made it complicated. I should have won earlier. No kidding, duh. I mean, I'm not happy about it either, but that's life. At any rate, I got the win, and I get the win, and so it was really nice to win that game and move to 1.5 out of 2. And now we're going to take a look at the last game of the day, the third and final game against the former world champion, someone who I admire more probably than any other chess player in the world, Garry Kasparov. So Garry opens with f4, and one thing that I kind of decided in this opening was, you know what, I'm playing Garry, and it's the last game. I got a window of a shot to kind of be in the mix for the last day. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to try to be a little bit funky, be a little bit of imbalance, also play a little bit of Nepo Man style and just move very quickly. So I play d5, e6. Again, I got to protect the pawn on d5 here with the pawn on e6. So now he goes knight f3. I play knight f6, queen g1. Actually, I thought here I should have played c5. Yeah, I mean, see, I'm such trash at this game. I bet c5, right? I'm such trash. Or now it's changing, but yeah, c5 is definitely a good move. So I play knight f6, he goes queen g1, and now I play bishop e7. Again, I realized my error because I still want to go c5, but Garry's queen g1 move is really strong because it both protects the pawn, but it also stops pawn to c5 here. So now I go bishop e7, he plays here, I go bishop d6. And my reasoning behind bishop d6 was mainly I want to put pressure on the pawn. I want to make him have to move the bishop this way rather than being able to put pressure on these two diagonals from h4 to g3. So he goes here, I play knight c6, knight c3, a6. Again, I was very upset because I thought, okay, I can just castle. And then to my horror, I realized white goes knight b5, hitting the bishop and attacking the pawn. And I have to move the pawn, and once white gets the two bishops, this is really, really bad for black. So instead I decide, you know what, it's bad, but I gotta go a6. He plays e4, trade, bishop b4. Of course, I can't allow the classic fork on e5 with the pawn going forward. I go here, e5, I play knight d7, a3, bishop e7. Now one thing that's important, I know I'm going a little bit fast with this game, is that I don't want to give up the bishop pair, but I also am basically provoking white, because when I play f6, I'm able to chip away to center right away. So it's pretty complicated. It's not straightforward by any stretch of the imagination. But white, I am provoking weaknesses in the white camp. So here he goes bishop e2, I go f6. Again, if I don't pawn break here, white has way too much space in the center of the board. Now there are two things that I would say. There are two things I will say about chess that they're really important basic things to think about. If your opponent has a lot more space, there are two ways that you can try to counteract that when your opponent has more space on the board. One is to exchange pieces somewhere. I'll get to Garry. So you guys are talking about Garry. I'll get to that when we reach that point of the game, since I guess he did an interview. So I'll once I get there, I'll take a look. So basically there are two things that you can do when your opponent has a lot more space. One is trade down, like trade rooks, trade bishops, make the even trades. The other one is look for pawn breaks. So I play for the pawn break with f6 here. He takes, I take back with the bishop, line it up on the diag. He goes knight e4. I play bishop g6. Actually, I think knight e4 was a bad move somehow, because it felt like it threw the rhythm off when he did this. I felt that he probably should just castle, and something here should be good. I don't quite know what the exact ordering is, but it felt like there should be something that's good. Okay, Kylo Reno, seriously, dude, I'm not gonna ban you, but you're getting a timeout. Like, you're very lucky I'm not banning you for that. But if anybody else is in the mood to write something absolutely ridiculous that Garry would never say, you're gonna get banned. So like, seriously, you're very lucky, Kylo Reno, that I'm being nice, because that, like, normally I would just ban you for that. So instead, knight e4 is played here by Garry. I play bishop g6, and now he takes, castles, and again, white is better here. White is definitely better here, but it's kind of not easy to play, because it's like you feel like there should be some way to really put the pressure with the pawns on e6 and f6. And Garry goes bishop c4, and I think this was the start of him going wrong. Now, mind you, Garry had used way too much time, so he was already down to, I think, 3 minutes. But apparently knight d4 and just very quiet retreat. Yeah, I mean, I hate computers. I really do hate computers. Like, it's crazy that it says this is 1.6. Like, again, I bet if someone were to ask Garry what he would say about this position, he would say, well, like, white is better. It's probably, you know, white is better, but black probably is reasonable drawing chance. But the computers just, like, would laugh at everybody. It's like, haha, it's plus 1.6. You guys all suck at chess. You should go get a real job. But yeah, it's kind of amazing. Because I bet Garry would say the same thing. He'd see this, he'd be like, okay, white's probably better, but surely it's not that great. And then he'd look at the eval and he'd be like, wow, because it's actually just like winning. So yeah, I guess knight d4 is a good move. I mean, instead Garry plays I mean, this move, which I mean, it's fine, but the problem is now after bishop c4 queen g8 it starts to get very sketch, because the problem is I'm gonna break in the center, and there are issues down the g file too here. So this is a round where it starts getting really sketchy for Garry. He plays queen e3, which is a big mistake, because now after bishop f7 I think the advantage is objectively gone when you consider the time situation and the fact that there are too many threats. Like, I'm threatening g4, I'm threatening e5 to open up the diagonal. And it's also important that one thing is, because early on in the game I saw these queen a7 ideas, I also saw these ideas where I can run down and mate his king too. So now he goes queen c3, knight c5, and now I think, I mean, Garry takes on f6, which is definitely not the right move, but it's already at the point where I think what Garry should have done was probably just try to bail out, play something like g5, just make some sort of exchange and just trade everything down, and just get out of dodge and make a draw here. Although apparently the computer still likes this for white. I still think this is probably drawish, though. I think after e5 they're pretty good drawing chances. If somebody has a link or you can timestamp the Garry video, I will watch it, actually, if you have a timestamp. He said he wanted to repeat with, yeah, actually, you know, I was gonna say, you guys, that actually I expected Garry to repeat. I thought he would go queen e3 and just make a draw. But I mean, the thing for Garry though is, like, he's not in it for the money, and he's also like, he's just in it to have fun and play. So for Garry to make a repetition, I think I was a little bit lucky, because I think somebody like Wesley, for example, totally would have gone queen e3, queen c3 and made the draw 100%. 100% Wesley would have played like queen e3, queen c3, made the draw, conserved his position in the standings. But Garry just like wants to play. So Garry takes, and unfortunately after takes, now the whole thing starts spiraling out of control really fast. Now originally my idea was e5, but I thought after takes queen check, rook g7, queen f5, that, oh, I can go rook d7. Oh wait, what, king b1? Oh my god, e4. Oh my god, I'm so terrible. I'm so terrible at chess. That's frustrating, actually, because this was my original idea, but I didn't see the power of this rook g7 and e4. Okay, so instead I went for the other one, which is knight e4, queen h4. Now I play e5, and now it just gets really hard to play. I think white is still okay after takes and king b1 stopping the checkmate idea, but again, to play this is very hard. And I think Garry actually, he just missed it on bishop d3. I go bishop g6, and now the whole thing just gets really bad immediately, because there's just this little, my queen just goes in and checkmates the king. Yeah, if somebody wants to link me to it, I can watch it. 43608. Okay, and then someone can link me to, okay, there's the YouTube. Let me pull this off. Let me pull this off. Okay, yeah, I'll watch it afterwards. I'll just pull it off in this other window. We'll watch it after I go through, finish my analysis. So yeah, so I mean, the thing is, I think Garry, he just missed how strong this move is, because my queen is just going in and checkmating the white king, since white has pushed a3, and now Garry has to go here, and after knight d2, he takes with the rook. He could have taken with the knight, but I mean, after rook d3, takes bishop d3. I mean, worst case, maybe you can draw us with correct play, but very hard to play at any rate for white. So Garry does the other one, which I think is probably worse, because even if the material is even here, you end up in a spot where everything is discoordinated, or uncoordinated, sorry. The rooks are not coordinated. My rook controls the file, my knight is also hopping too, and white can't consolidate in time. Yeah, discoordinated. Yeah, it's probably because of Discord that I said that. So he goes queen e1, I go takes. I don't know if this was best, but once I didn't see that there was an insta win like knight d4 or queen d3, I'm like, okay, just take the pawn, you're up a pawn in endgame, and it's all good. Especially considering the time situation where I had like 9 minutes to his 1 minute at this point. So I thought, just be smart, don't do anything insane, and all good things, and something good will happen at this point. So all right, so anyway, he goes rook f2. I play rook f4 here, king to a1, and now I play rook e4, queen c3, rook e8. Again, try to double up the stack on the e file and just checkmate the king, because it's a little bit vulnerable long term potentially with this being on a1. So he goes rook c1. I go king b8. Now Garry blunders. He plays queen f6. To his credit, Garry was very low on time here, and so it's just hard to play. So I go rook c4, rook d1, and now rook f4. Important, by the way, not to play rook f4 right away, because then white can play knight e5. And objectively, this is still winning for black, but technically speaking, there probably could be some issues here. So I just thought, you know, no need to go for this, just no need to make it messy. So I go here, rook d1, and now after rook f4, it's GG's, because white can't do the same trick, because now you lose the rook and get mated. So he goes here. I play rook f8, and now the double stack is way too strong, especially with the rook being stuck on f2. He goes rook d3, queen h5. I actually blundered here, play knight d4. The point was I thought I had knight b5, but after queen e3, there's a very devious tricks on takes queen f3. White goes rook e8 check, and I can't actually move the king because his queen covers a square. And so now when I take, I lose my queen. So I realized right away, it's like, whatever. Luckily, I can just go back, rook e3, and now I just play a5, and I just go sip my coffee or tea, take a deep breath, relax, and wait for whatever Garry is going to try to do with his next move. So now he goes here. I go a4. He goes back. It's a very sad state of affairs that white can only keep repeating, because basically you can never move the knight. You can't move this rook. You also can't move this rook, because it's just everything's tied. So he goes rook e3, and now I go knight a5 again. I push the pawn here. I want to jam the knight on b3 and create some kind of checkmate long term with the knight and the rook. So he goes knight e5 now. Trying to hope for some kind of blunder, I guess rook f2 and like queen a5 or something, but I basically say no nonsense, not going to give you any hopes. I just go queen d1, and Garry, I think he ran out of time here, but he would have resigned anyway, because after king a2 there are many ways to win, but the simplest is just queen d5, create the right triangle check, support the knight on a5, and then collect the rook on f2. So again, just following the methods of Pythagoras and using them in the great game of chess. So Garry after queen d1, he ran out of time. He would have resigned. So yeah, so it was a good day. We get our 2.5 points out of 3, and I think we're going to load an image. 1 second. Let me just get the standings so I can show you guys the standings, and then we'll watch the Garry video for a minute or two as well. So 1 second. Let me just get the standings. What is the Pythagoras check? It's when you make a check and you create a right triangle. You know, you got to make your 90-degree right triangle, you know, with the queen, and it protects the knight and also hits the king on a2. So you got to make the classic right. You got to make the classic 90-degree right triangle. I guess I don't have standings, so that's life. At any rate, the standings are Levon has 4.5 points. I have 4. Wesley So has 4, and I think Magnus also has 4. So there's one player on 4.5, and there are 3 of us right behind on 4. So so right now I'm in good shape. Half point out of first place. There's $37,500 up top. So I definitely want to put in a good day of chess tomorrow. 3 more games, and it's a shame I had the one bad game against Lenny that I really wish that I could have that extra half point back, but not a big deal. We're on 4 points out of 6 plus 2. Things are good, and we keep rolling ahead.